Hi.
Oh my God. Well, Billy, I love Rare Beast so much. I have so many questions I want to ask you. I think we just want to go straight in with the first big one, just about the whole concept of the film. So there's a line in it where someone says to our female protagonist, no one wants to read about miserable women.
Yeah.
And to me, Rare Beast seems like a film that is so much about female fear and unhappiness and sadness and anger and trauma. And do you think that people don't want to know about the negative emotions of women? And do you think it is about the darker, more negative side of being a woman?
Yeah, I think I don't think people have wanted to read or watch things about authentic female experiences. I feel like I only read memoirs about female pain, and I really like it. I'm not looking to. I'm not. What's the instinct? The instinct is I want to relate. That's it. It's not. I don't want to purposefully make myself feel sad. I want to know that others feel the same, and I hope with the film I guess that's the quest with the film. But within the pain, there's also a lot of laughs.
Yes, I was hooting throughout. I've got so many favourite lines. Like there are so many lines in it that are sitcom funny. There's just one bit where your character is really angry, and the guy she's working with, and you're so angry. People are saying that you're Scottish.
I know.
I mean, that's sitcom silly. It's
sitcom silly, and there are a few of those. But yes.
The thing with kind of like when we talk about sort of like projects about women that are kind of maybe talk about the dark side of the negative and the fear and all this kind of stuff, that basically being a woman is you are a list of generally unexamined problems. And kind of, so I'm interested in any project that just goes, let's talk about what the problems are. Because in a male-led project, that would be that, that would be obstacles, and that would be, and that would be your antagonists. Whereas with women, it's kind of seen as whining. If you've got problems that you're trying to overcome within a project, you're just supposed to turn up and be the sunny kind of thing in the corner. And when we talk about dark characters and kind of like, is this character going to be likable when the worst thing they might have done is shout at someone when they're drunk? When we have male characters who kill thousands of people within the space of a scene. Sometimes they blow up planets, and no one's going, this guy's unlikable. It's like
this guy's got issues,
right? Like it's like you've just thrown the Hulk into Tokyo and destroyed like a major shopping district. Like to me, that makes you quite unlikable. I know how long it takes to rebuild the city. Whereas if a woman stands up in a pub in a scene and just goes, "I don't like you," suddenly everyone's like, "Oh, she's a shrew." She hasn't destroyed any buildings. Like, give her that.
So true. And one of the things that comes up a lot when I talk about my film, or even I Hate Suzie, is about what kind of parent she is. And do we think I've gone a little bit far with that? But because people don't want to see mothers in conflict with their kids, or seem to be neglectful of their children, or in any way not golden and motherly, and often child rearing, as you know, is not golden. It's so many other things, and I've been longing to see versions of that aren't abuse stories. They're just the nuances of raising children, and also how the modern world and being a working mother impacts your relationships with your children, and how that starts to affect their behavior, I guess. I personally need to see that stuff and read that stuff. I feel it's really missing.
Well, absolutely, because it's dementing. It creates a false reality when sort of it's presumed that every mother and every mother character you see or read about is innately wise, is infinitely patient, and will love inexhaustively until they die. You're not wise, you will screw up. And the fact that that it's seen as like, if that happens to you, you need to keep that secret. You must not talk about it. You must not put that on the screen. You must not put that in a book. You shouldn't even talk about it to your friends if you've screwed up, or you stop loving, or you get angry, you don't know the answers.
Yeah.
It's damaging for women.
I know, it's so true. And I think you're right when you talk about even those discussions with your closest female friends. There is sort of, not deceit, but women aren't, I don't think, talking as honestly as they could be about those things. And I'm sure they are impacted by the world around them and the fact that they don't feel like they can easily discuss those topics. It's kind of annoying. I feel like it's slightly changing, but it's still got a long, long way to go. I always feel like women have been examined really well in theatre. I don't feel people have really successfully done that in TV until quite recently. And I think in film, there's still quite a long way to go. I mean, Mia and Reclaim the Frame are pushing that and pushing women in film and making sure those stories are heard and seen. And I think that's really encouraging.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, let's talk about that for a minute, because I too feel that things have really changed, like particularly in the last 10 years. It feels that like we've gone through a boom time of finally seeing kind of like messier, more real, more dark, more humorous kind of like real women. We live in a post-Fleabag, Killing Eve, Broad City, I Hate Susie era, where we're starting to see those kind of characters coming through and that kind of writing coming through. Do you feel that? And have you got any theories as to why that has happened, other than just simply that 52% of the audience really wants to see that stuff and finally market forces have acknowledged it?
Yes, I think it's quite simply that. I feel like, Girls did a lot, I think,
yes.
A lot of legwork. And I'm working with Lena at the moment, and
I love her. My biggest
I love her so much. I can't believe I'm on a set with her. I love her. And hanging out with you, just realize how important she was or is, and how important Girls was, because that's where because I think Fleabag happened after, actually, didn't it?
Yes.
But she was doing a lot of groundwork, and there is clearly a huge appetite for it, and it's rich and it's funny and it's crass and it's everything that I love. So I do feel deeply inspired by these women. I mean, you've been doing it for years, frankly. You've been doing it alone for years.
Because I wanted to ask you, so writing and directing, I didn't realise when you first started telling me about this like ages ago, I just thought you were just starring and directing it. I didn't realise that you'd written it as well. So this is the first thing you've written?
This is the first thing I've written and finished.
Yeah.
I've started a lot of screenplays or whatever. I've always written since I guess I did lots of, just small things like diary inserts and journals and observational pieces. And I've started a number of scripts and never finished them. This one felt like I just had to do it. And it happened quite quickly, and I wasn't reaching far beyond the things that I was seeing and experiencing emotionally, and that felt like a sort of a satisfying, creative spot for me. So I really dedicated myself to it and pushed acting aside.
So how did you go about it then? Like when I start a project, I usually just have an A4 sheet. For me, I didn't start sort of writing big projects until I was in my 30s, because I just thought that you had to do something like the things that exist. So I was like, okay, the most successful film, that everybody goes on about is Star Wars. So a film has to be about a teenage boy with some magic powers and you blow up a planet. I don't have any stories like that, so I can never make a film. I can never write a book. And then in my early 30s, I had this sudden realization that like the job is not to make something like the things that exist. You have to turn 180 degrees and go, what doesn't exist? Where is the vacuum? Where is the silence? Where are the taboos?
Yeah.
So what for you, what was the nucleus of like getting this story together with Rare Beasts? Like, did you have a list or a theme or a question? Often it's a question, like, what's you want to solve?
I feel like that's a shared instinct though, because that's how I felt. I felt like I wanted people to behave on screen in a familiar way to me. Now, that might not be everyone's cup of tea. And a lot of people have sort of said to me, but they're also coarse and they're so angry and aggressive towards each other. They don't feel unfamiliar to me, those characters. Certainly, the family stuff, the way my family interact is shocking to some people.
So let's talk about the family, because I feel your family feels very similar to my family in the representation that I've seen. So like kind of a father who is a big character, sort of on his own quest, possibly not focused on parenting that much, but just sort of being a legend, being himself, following his own dreams and stuff. Tell me more about the family in the film.
Well, I feel like the family, my family are quite stoic until there is a crisis, and then it can be very confrontational, and then sort of silence. I guess what I wanted to talk about with the family in the film, it's sort of representative of a generational thing. So it's the leap. We've had to make quite a leap from the sort of traditional ideas of relationships and the placing of a woman and a man, and you know, the simplicity of that on the surface. And then we feel like a sort of or certainly I feel, and my peers feel like, you know, we're trying to navigate modern romance, modern relationships with the stresses that we experience. And constantly in my mind, I'm asking questions about which one is easiest, which path is which route is easiest. Is it my family's template, or is it the world in which I live? So I really wanted to look at those sort of two worlds and try and unpack them within the film. And I feel like the her family are doing a lot of that work, but there are definitely similarities in my experiences of that generation within the family. You know,
there are several quotes about relationships which I just wanted to throw at you and just see sort of like what your thinking was behind them when you wrote them, or kind of whether they are your beliefs or whether they're just some writing. One, there's Lily James's character at a wedding is talking about men and difficult men that you love, and is saying, but the thing is, we can see through all the arrogance and rage. Don't love lightly. Like kind of this idea that kind of like love is a quest for women, and like kind of, you know, sort of whatever the negative sides are of men, that you need to overcome them. And then there's a point where the female character, the mum, is talking about her marriage and just saying, I felt like my life was a tribute to your life. So again, there's these recurring themes of kind of like sort of women who feel like they're sort of an adjunct to the man, or like it's a quest.
Yeah, I've only grown up seeing that. And I say that with no agenda. That's just my experience of life. I've only ever seen women serving men in my childhood, and probably in my, my own early romantic experiences. When I think back to women in my family, I've seen them make themselves small and dedicate their entire existence to managing a man. And those men haven't always been kind. And since I was so young, I've always had such an issue with that. And I think a lot of that is why I wanted to leave Swindon, because I imagined that bigger things were happening in London and women weren't sort of reduced to that.
You think that all the good men are in London, and that if you, as an unusual person, like that you're kind of a specialist job. Like I remember thinking that in Wolverhampton, like kind of there won't be any kind of boys or men that can handle me. I'm a specialist job. I would have to go to London. Because I knew if you wanted to get good highlights in your hair, you would have to go and see a London salon.
I know. And I still think that stuff sometimes as well. I did think that sort of stuff a lot when I was younger. People will be more sophisticated in London, and men will be kinder, and women will have access to things. And I felt very angry about some of the things I saw as a little girl, and in terms of the way women were treated. So that's obviously powering a lot of this narrative. But I haven't been able to talk about those things until recently. I've sort of silenced myself around that stuff until my mid-30s, at which point I could no longer do it. And I think my friends share a similar sort of turning point at that age, where it becomes, you either become incredibly angry, which I definitely have experienced as well, or you look at ways in which you can sort of liberate yourself.
But that's an interesting thing, is it? Because the thing is with feminism is that we think that if you're doing it through your work, then because you're getting paid for it, then it must be correct. And that's all about empowering women. But when you do it for yourself in your personal life, then that's just being a bit selfish. You know, you are being a bit of a cow. Like, you know, you could be as bold and feminist as you want in your work. But if you actually did come home and go, where's my steak dinner and my blowjob? I'm the boss of the house. And you're like, oh, it doesn't work like that. You're not the daddy. You're still the mummy. And that's very different.
Where is my steak dinner and my blowjob?
I want that T-shirt. Pay me like your men. Pay me like you French men. That's what I want on my T-shirt. So I love, one of my favorite themes in the whole theme of the film seems to be that kind of like, I mean, I don't want to sort of spoiler it, but sort of that last scene is a really pivotal thing, sort of like, you know, your character's going through all these different things. And the last scene is beautiful. I think you shot it up at Ali Pali.
I did.
Yes,
all the North London haunts.
Yes, it's so beautiful. I won't give it away, but like, it's kind of like, it's this sort of, there's a realization. You give this brilliant, very funny manifesto. It's both very funny, very truthful, but very, very funny, as all truths are, I think.
Yeah, oh, totally. I agree.
And the way you shot that, it reminded me of a musical. And like, one of my theories about women, and particularly in storytelling, is if you look at a list of the 100 greatest films ever made, they're all male dominated and usually about killing people. It's all like The Godfather and, you know, Serpico and sort of, you know, it's just men killing people basically. But then if you look at a list of the 100 greatest musicals ever made, they're all stories that center women, and they're usually made by women and gay men. And it's not about people lying. It's about a woman who feels a bit weird and usually a bit of an outcast, realizing that she's got a talent, she can sing and she can dance, and then triumphing because she works hard and shows her power. And it's a completely different narrative structure. And there was several beats in the film. There's a big dance scene in it when you're at the wedding. There's the way that the Ali Pali scene is shot like a musical. And I wondered, and also obviously in I Hate Susie, you've got that musical number there as well. Are musicals a thing that you love? Is that something that you reference, or am I just projecting massively upon your beautiful face?
You're not. You've hit the nail on the head. I mean, I loved musicals as a kid. I found them so transporting. They meant so much more to me than I think I realized. They were doing a lot for me emotionally. And my mum loved them too. So it was something that we really sort of enjoyed together. With the film, because it's quite heavy and it's quite bleak, there is a version of this film, as with I Hate Susie, really, there's a version that is slightly more loach, like it's heavier and darker and British and gritty and domestic and all of that. And I really didn't want to do that with the film. I wanted to sort of wrap it up in something slightly more abstract and musical, because I feel like it's a really great, first of all, it's very immersive as an experience, so you can really feel like you're very much part of it. But then it's just a great way to discuss darker themes, I think, and for me it's more entertaining, and it speaks to a lot of my personality and the things that I see in my mind. But the thing that we love is that, again, the darker themes being expressed through music and dance, which help you sort of soar. And it's just so enjoyable watching people dance.
Well, it allows women to be in their physicality without simply standing at the top of a staircase in a sort of biased cult silk dress and everybody staring up at them and going, oh, she's amazing. And then her just being really impassive and walking through a party with a cigarette, like kind of she's sweating, she's dancing, she's flipping off walls, like kind of it's a woman being good at something with her body that isn't just about being sexy. And you sort of realise what a sort of rare little breakout area that is in terms of seeing female role models. And also the device of musical numbers is that's where people do their thinking and things change. So rather than just being a really heavy piece of dialogue, someone's got a problem and then they sing the song about the problem, and by the end they know the solution. Yay! And it allows you to really directly give people information and talk them through an interior monologue. Absolutely. But being entertaining and joyful rather than kind of like, you need to sit through this is worthy. And I think that's a really generous, quite female, quite gay thing to do. Like, I'm going to give you a huge amount of information about the interior of my head, but you're going to love it because I'm going to be singing.
I know. I love it. I really love it. And so where I could, I would explore it in the film. But there wasn't a lot of money and there certainly wasn't a lot of time. So it's maybe not as far-fetched as I would have liked.
Yeah. There's have you got a favourite scene in Rare Beasts? The one that you're just like, you're just like, yes, that's the one I treasure the most.
It's funny because it won't be what everybody else is, I don't think. I really like the undressing scene.
I was going to say that. I love that. So can you just talk us through it just a tiny bit without spoiling it for everybody who's about to see it?
So I guess it's her on their first date. I think it's her attempt of being an empowered sort of feminist. This idea that she is going to take control of a sort of sexual experience, so she sort of wants to own his thoughts about her body, but it sort of doesn't quite work out that way. Although what he does so frequently is reflects back to her some of the worst things she thinks about herself, which I think is why she's drawn to him, and it's something I can relate to so much. There's parts of that I wish I personally had the confidence to do myself. And I think when you're writing, sometimes you can play out those ideas in your characters, can't you? And situations like that.
Oh, I constantly have people saying, the stuff that your characters say, like kind of, they just think it's you and they're like, God, you must be so bold and brilliant and like kind of not screwed up because you've got these characters saying these things. It's like, yeah, there's a reason I've got characters saying these things, like kind of. But that's part of the magic of art, isn't it? Like, I think so much of art, particularly for women or people from minorities that are underrepresented, is basically a wish. Like a wish. You're trying to invent a possible future that you could live in. Like kind of when popular culture works well, we do invent new kinds of women. I remember after Sex in the City, suddenly every woman was suddenly in a cocktail bar talking about penises and vibrators, and they all had a gay best friend. It was just like literally overnight we invented this new kind of woman. Sort of like women were like, oh, I could be like that. And when art works well, you invent new kinds of women, new kinds of people. So like, I think often the artists that I know are trying to they're trying to write something that invents a future that they will finally be happy in because they're not happy in the present they've got at the moment. And that's those moments where you just think, yeah, I know why I'm in this game. Like it's kind of quite sad in some ways.
It's sad, but it's also really enjoyable. So I think, yeah, that moment is it hits the nail on the head. I think one of the other moments I really love is around the dinner table in Spain with his family, because I am slightly obsessed with being plucked out of your experience as whatever it is, and sitting amongst an entirely different group of people that you're not used to in a sort of family dynamic. I love scenes like that in films, and especially this bunch because it's all very sort of hot-headed and it's just its own level of hysteria.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much tension in the film. Like, kind of, I mean, many times it feels like a kind of thriller horror because, like, from the first moment that you see this man and this woman meet each other, you're like, I don't think this will end well. Kind of like this is.
No, but I think that's really because when I was talking with production and stuff about how we present the film, in my mind, it is a bit of a horror.
Totally, it's love as a horror film, and like kind of that's the genres that it reminds me of is musicals and horror films. That's what you've done. You've done a musical horror about love.
That's so good. A musical horror about love. That's what I'm going to start saying from now on. Thank you. You've given me my line.
Well, that's probably the right time.
Yeah.
Let everybody see this musical horror about love. I can't wait for everybody to watch it. I've now watched it 3 times. I can now mouth along with my favourite lines. My favourite one being when your character's talking to the child and saying the thing that mums say so often, which is, I love you so much it hurts. And then it goes, I hate it when you say that. And you're suddenly what are mums doing? Why would we say that?
I don't know.
But this is a film about loving so much it hurts. So I hope everyone enjoys it.